I moved to the woods for peace. It was supposed to help me after my breakup. The cabin felt cozy with the fireplace crackling, snow outside piled high. I was 32, a freelancer needing inspiration. But things changed. I can't shake what happened. On the second night, the wind howled. I was sketching, trying to focus. Then I heard a tap against the window. I thought it was branches, but it kept tapping, as if someone was trying to get my attention. I felt prickles on my neck, like someone was watching me. My heart raced, but I shook it off. I just needed to relax. Over the next few nights, the tapping grew louder. I started seeing shadows darting between the trees. They felt real, but I told myself it was just my tired eyes. I became jumpy. One night, I stood by the window, peering into the dark. I thought I saw a figure, small and childlike. When I blinked, it vanished. I figured I was just exhausted. Then, I found the footprints in the snow. They led away from my cabin, small and uneven, like a child had rushed into the woods. My heart sank. Who could have made those? I was alone. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe I was going crazy being alone too long. Still, every time I looked outside, the forest felt heavy, closing in on me. I tried to ignore it. I kept drawing, but my sketches changed. They showed twisted creatures with too many eyes. My hand moved on its own, drawing things I didn't understand. Maybe I was losing it, but it was like something took over. Late one night, the tapping came again. This time, it was at the door. Cold air rushed in as I opened it slowly. Nothing was there, just silence, broken only by my racing heart. Panic crept in as the tapping came again. It was sharper, louder. "Is anyone there?" I shouted. Nothing answered. I strained to listen. Then I heard a child's whisper from the trees, and my stomach dropped. I took a step back. "Who are you?" I yelled. No answer. Then it got worse. The whispering turned clearer. "Why did you leave?" Cold gripped my throat. I stumbled back, heart pounding. I couldn't breathe. I realized then I was not alone. I stood at the door, frozen, fear locking me in place. What was out there? What was real anymore? I didn't know. But that night, the whispers kept coming. I stood there, paralyzed by dread, not knowing if I should go outside or stay inside, where it felt just as unsafe. I didn't sleep much that night. The whispers turned into a cacophony of questions, drawing me in with every word. "Why did you leave?" echoed in my mind. I pressed my hands against my ears, trying to drown it out. I was terrified. I needed to do something. As dawn broke, the shadows from the trees seemed to whisper secrets I couldn't hear. The cabin felt like a prison, walls closing in on me. I grabbed my coat and decided to explore the area. Maybe I could find answers, or just clear my head. I opened the door, and the cold hit me like a slap, but I pushed through. The snow crunched beneath my boots as I walked. I followed the footprints, still visible, leading deeper into the woods. I felt drawn to them but also scared. It was like a tether pulling me closer to something I wasn't ready to confront. After a few minutes, I came across a clearing. The trees were sparse, and the sunlight filtered weakly through the branches. My eyes fell on a small object half buried in the snow. I knelt down, uncovering it with trembling hands. It was a doll, with button eyes and frayed hair, missing an arm. It looked ancient. Chills ran down my spine. "Where did you come from?" I murmured to myself. As I held it, a gust of wind rustled the nearby branches, and I could have sworn I heard a giggle. I dropped the doll like it was on fire, stepping back instinctively. I didn't want to play games. Suddenly, I noticed a broken path leading further into the woods. It looked like it hadn't been used in years. I hesitated, but the need for answers propelled me. I followed it, keeping my breathing steady. I needed to know if anyone else was out here or what was really going on. As I walked, I felt eyes on me. I glanced over my shoulder repeatedly, half expecting to see the silhouette of a child creeping closer. The whispering began again, softer this time but charged with emotion. "Help me," the words were haunting, as if pleading. The path led me to an old, dilapidated shack. It was barely standing, cloaked in vines and the scent of decay. My instincts screamed at me to turn back, but curiosity won. I pushed open the door with a creak. Inside, it was dark, barely illuminated by the dim light from cracks in the walls. That's when I saw it. A wooden chair in the center, facing the wall. On it lay another doll, similar to the one I found, but this one was complete and looked almost alive. My heart raced. I stepped closer, and then the door slammed shut behind me. Trapped. A sudden fear washed over me. I spun around, ready to pound on the door, when a voice cut through the darkness. "You shouldn't have come here." My breath caught in my throat, and the shadows in the corners seemed to shift toward me. Panic surged. I had to escape. I reached for the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. I was not just in the presence of the unknown, I was ensnared in it. My heart raced, pounding against my ribcage like a wild animal trapped in a corner. The voice lingered in the air, thick and rough, as if it belonged to someone who hadn't spoken in years. I felt my throat tighten, and I forced myself to swallow. "Who is there?" I managed to choke out, trying to sound brave. No answer came, just a lingering silence that pressed down on me. I turned back to the door, pulling with all my strength, but it wouldn't budge. The air felt colder, prickling my skin. I backed away slowly, feeling the shadows around me grow deeper, darker. The only light came from the cracks in the walls, dancing across the floor and illuminating the doll on the chair. It stared at me with its unblinking button eyes, a smile painted on its face that didn't comfort me at all. Then I heard it again, a soft giggle, echoing from somewhere behind me. Panic surged anew. I spun around, searching the corners of the room for any sign of movement. "Show yourself!" I shouted, my voice trembling. The walls seemed to close in, the shack responding to my fear with a low rumble. Suddenly, the doll on the chair began to sway ever so slightly, as if an unseen force breathed life into it. My breath hitched in my throat. I couldn't take my eyes off it. The laughter grew, wrapping around me like a shroud. "Help me," the voice whispered again, closer this time, chilling me to the bone. I stepped back, bumping into the wall behind me. My mind raced. I had to get out. Hungry for freedom, I turned towards a window at the rear of the shack, its glass shattered and jagged. It looked like my only escape. I hurried toward it, heart in my throat. But as I reached for the opening, it felt smaller than I remembered. Panic swelled. I squeezed through, sharp edges digging into my sides, desperation fueling my movements. I tumbled onto the snow-covered ground outside, gasping for air, but my escape was short-lived. I heard the door behind me creak open, and dread settled in my stomach. I glanced back and froze. The air shimmered in the cold, and there she stood, a girl, no older than 8, with messy hair and tattered clothes. Her eyes were wide, yet empty, as if she was trapped in her own nightmare. "Why did you leave?" she asked, tilting her head. The echo of those words crawled beneath my skin, familiar yet dissonant. I stumbled back, shaking my head. "I didn't leave anyone," I shouted, confusion and fear surging. She pointed towards the woods, a gesture rooted in sorrow. "You have to help me before it's too late." The laughter from inside the shack faded, replaced by a disquieting quiet. I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to run. But there was something in her gaze that tethered me, an undeniable pull toward the mystery that consumed her. What did she mean? What had I stumbled into? Without another thought, I turned and bolted into the forest, branches snapping underfoot. I knew I was in over my head, but something deep inside urged me onward. I had to uncover the truth of what haunted these woods. Little did I know, the darkness was only beginning to reveal itself. I ran without looking back, fueled by adrenaline and rising fear. The trees loomed over me like ancient sentinels, their branches intertwining to create a dreadful canopy. The girl's words echoed in my mind, "You have to help me before it's too late." I could feel her gaze burning into my back, compelling me to go deeper into the woods. Suddenly, the branches swayed, and I heard that giggle again, unmistakable and sinister. It was like a haunting melody carried through the icy air, twisting my stomach into knots. "No!" I shouted, trying to drown it out. I pushed ahead, focusing on the ground beneath my feet. Each step crunched in the snow, but the laughter persisted, growing louder, closer. I entered a small clearing, the moonlight spilling across the ground. It felt oddly serene, but I knew better. My instincts warned me to stay alert. I scanned the area, half expecting to see the girl again. But she was gone. I took a breath, straining to hear any sounds beyond the gentle rustling of the wind. That's when I saw it, a mound of snow piled in the middle of the clearing, looking unnatural, too even. My heartbeat quickened again, and I approached cautiously. Something compelled me to dig. I knelt down, my hands clawing through the flakes, and as I shoveled away the snow, my fingers touched something hard, cold, and unmistakably smooth. I pulled back the last layers, revealing a weathered wooden box, covered in symbols I couldn't decipher. A chill ran through me as I brushed more snow off the surface. I felt drawn to it. I hesitated for a moment, my body screaming that this was a mistake. But curiosity overpowered my fear. With a deep breath, I pried the lid open. Inside lay a collection of strange trinkets, a rusted key, a tarnished locket, and a small, tattered photograph of the very girl I had just encountered. Her lifeless eyes stared back at me from the image, that same emptiness mirrored in my own heart as dread washed over me. As I stared, I heard footsteps crunching in the snow from behind. Panic coursed through me, and I quickly looked up. The girl stood there, watching me with her haunting gaze, but this time, I saw something different in her eyes: desperation. "You found it," she whispered, her voice breaking. "What is this?" I asked, my voice trembling. I couldn't keep the fear from creeping in. "What does it mean?" She stepped closer, and the air around us felt charged, heavy with unspoken truths. "You have to listen. They're coming. They want to let you leave," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. Before I could respond, the laughter returned, echoing through the trees. It felt more sinister than before, a chilling invitation that sent a shiver down my spine. I looked around the clearing, anxiety swelling in my chest. Shadows flickered at the edges of my vision, and then I noticed them, a group of figures forming behind the trees, their shapes indistinct but undeniably present. I turned back to the girl. "What do I do?" My voice quaked, torn between fight and flight. But she just pointed toward the woods. "Run! Before they take you too." With a jolt, I sprang to my feet, adrenaline flooding my veins. I didn't look back as I dashed into the depths of the forest. The shadows began to move, chasing after me with malicious intent. I could hear them closing in, as fear took over completely, urging me forward, further away from that chilling clearing and the girl who had drawn me into this nightmare. Could I escape? Or had I just unleashed something worse? The forest closed in around me, the branches scraping against my clothes like skeletal fingers. I pushed through the underbrush, my breath coming in frantic gasps. The laughter echoed again, relentless now, mingling with the sound of my pounding heart. I stumbled along the uneven ground, trying not to trip over hidden roots or slip on the ice that glistened beneath the snow. Just when I thought I might have put some distance between myself and the shadows, a figure darted across my path, disappearing into the trees with a small giggle. I froze, locking my eyes on the spot. My heart raced. Was it another spirit? Was it the girl again? I had to keep moving. I couldn't stay here. As I sidestepped, I felt something sharp jab into my ankle. I yelped and fell to the ground, my hands plunging into the snow. There, half buried, was another trinket. It looked like a small porcelain doll, its glassy eyes watching me intently, shockingly lifelike against the backdrop of whiteness. My pulse quickened with both wonder and dread. What is this doing here? I muttered, picking it up. The doll felt heavy and cold in my hands. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the creeping unease that wrapped itself around me. Keep going, I told myself. Just keep moving. But the doll's gaze seemed to follow me, and instinctively, I shoved it into my pocket. My breath billowed out in front of me, visible in the frigid air, and I pressed on, adrenaline propelling me forward. A sudden gust of wind howled through the trees, and I caught a glimpse of movement to my right. I turned sharply to see a larger shadow looming behind a cluster of trees. My heart dropped. It was taller, more menacing than the other shapes before. Leave me alone. I cried, feeling the weight of fear bearing down on me, suffocating. Panic surged as I stumbled backward, only to trip over an exposed root. I hit the ground with a thud, the cold seeping through my clothes, numbing my fingers. The shadows crept closer, their whispers intertwining with the wind, a maddening chant that chilled my marrow. You shouldn't have come here, they seemed to echo. My eyes darted around, searching for an escape. A glimmer of hope sparked when I spotted a narrow path leading deeper into the woods, a sliver of darkness amidst the chaos. I scrambled up and hurled myself toward it, ignoring the cries of the figures behind me. I pushed myself into the narrow passage, legs pumping, heart racing, barely thinking about where it led. As I sprinted, the chant turned into laughter again, weaving in and out of the rustling leaves and branches. I ducked beneath low-hanging boughs, praying the shadows wouldn't follow me. My ears rang with the sound of their footsteps, echoing on all sides. Suddenly, the path opened into another clearing, eerily quiet. I paused to catch my breath but caught sight of something out of the ordinary in the center, a massive, ancient tree, twisted and gnarled. Its bark looked alive, writhing, as if the tree itself were breathing. I felt an inexplicable urge to approach it, but the laughter resumed, louder and more taunting than ever. Then, just at the edge of my vision, I saw a figure standing before the tree, a child, barely more than a silhouette. My stomach dropped. It was her again, the girl. Somehow, I knew this meeting would decide my fate. I hesitated, my heart thudding in my chest. What would she reveal? What did I have to risk? I took a step toward her, hoping this wasn't the end but the beginning of answers. But a chilling wind swept through, and along with it came the whispering shadows, urging me to run. In that moment, my instinct kicked in once more. I turned back, feeling the heat of urgency surge through me. I couldn't stay here. Not with the madness closing in. I fled again, deeper into the woods, unaware of what awaited just beyond the next bend, whether it would be freedom or something far worse. I raced through the trees, branches whipping past as I pushed myself harder. The laughter echoed behind me, but I couldn't look back. Fear clawed at my throat. I had to get away. The ground was uneven, and I stumbled, catching myself against a tree just as I caught my breath. What was going on? What did that girl want from me? My head swirled with questions, but I forced them aside. Survival felt more important than understanding. I leaned against the tree, shivering, listening. The laughter faded, but the shadow's presence lingered, heavy in the air. I took a step to move again and froze. Something shifted to my right. A flicker of white caught my eye, and my breath hitched. It was the doll, glinting in the moonlight. I had pushed it deep into my pocket. Had it fallen out? I quickly crouched down, peering closer as I realized it wasn't just the doll. An entire path of porcelain dolls, each dressed differently, lined the forest floor like a macabre pathway. I felt a cold chill gather at the back of my neck. I reached for a delicate fairy with porcelain wings and traced its features with trembling fingers. It felt unnervingly familiar, almost as if I had seen her before. The eyes of the doll seemed alive, sparkling with mischief. I jerked my hand back. This is insane, I muttered to myself. Then, without warning, an answering giggle filled the air, startling me. I shot up, spinning around. Was she here? I thought I had lost her. I felt exposed and small among the shadows and the dolls, their porcelain faces watching me silently. Where are you? I called out, feeling foolish even as I did. Silence answered. My heart pounded, mixing with the whispers of the wind that carried soft laughter. I took a step back, but my foot caught on something, sending me tumbling into the snow again. As I pushed myself up, panic surged through me once more. I have to find a way out. I yelled, voice cracking. I stumbled to my feet, but before I could get my bearings, the laughter swelled, overwhelming me, and the whispering started again, louder now. They can't help you. I heard it clearly, the voice wrapping around me like the cold. I darted in the opposite direction, heart thumping. I was desperate, searching for any sign of a route back to safety. The laughter and whispers taunted me incessantly, a mocking chorus that tightened my chest. But then, something caught my eye through the haze of branches ahead. A small glimmer, like candlelight. I hurried toward it, praying it wasn't another trick. Judging by the sound swirling around, I doubted I could trust anything. As I neared, I saw it wasn't just light but an old lantern swaying gently from a low-hanging branch. I reached for it, and the moment my hands grasped the cold metal, everything fell silent. I looked around, bewildered. No laughter. No whispers. But the silence didn't last long. A sudden rush of wind blew through the clearing, extinguishing the lantern. The shadows pooled around my feet as a presence loomed right behind me. Why did you come here? I heard, a voice low and chilling. I turned slowly, heart in my throat. The girl stood there, closer than ever, her eyes wide and unblinking. Before I could muster a response, she stepped forward, and everything around me shifted into darkness. I blinked, and the shadows swallowed me whole. Cold seeped into my bones as I stumbled back, crashing into one of the dolls that lined the forest floor. It shattered on impact, porcelain pieces scattering around me like lost dreams. The girl didn't move, but her eyes pierced through the darkness. Do you feel it? She whispered, voice echoing softly. The magic of the night? I shook my head, panic rising. What do you mean? I wanted to sound brave, but the tremor in my voice betrayed me. I glanced over my shoulder, considering the path I'd just come from. Maybe I could run again, escape her, but dread rooted me in place. Her presence felt stifling, like the air had thickened with an electric charge. They're waiting for you, she said, tilting her head as if she were studying me. They want to play. Play. A bitter laugh escaped my lips, but fear fluttered in my chest. I had no desire to join whatever twisted game she was proposing. I just want to leave. With a flick of her hand, the wind picked up again, swirling leaves and snow around us. You cannot leave. Not until you choose. Choose what? Frustration bubbled up inside me. I felt trapped, cornered, and every instinct screamed for me to run, to get out of this haunted forest. Which doll will you keep? She asked, her smile growing wider, exposing teeth that gleamed like ice. Choose wisely, or they'll decide for you. The dolls around me seemed to twitch as she spoke, their faces morphing in the flicker of my nerves. I looked around, desperation flooding my vision. Each one held a different persona, some were sweet, others sinister, but all felt wrong in their own way. I want to play your game. I shouted, ready to bolt into the dark, but the moment I started to pull away, the laughter rose again, louder and more chaotic. It felt as if the forest itself was alive, mocking me, celebrating my fear. Too late, the girl whispered, stepping forward, invading my space until her breath sent chills down my spine. They're already here. I whirled, scanning the shadowed trees. Shapes danced between the trunks, flickering just beyond the edge of my vision. I couldn't see them, but I felt their weight, 100 unblinking eyes watching my every move. No, I stumbled back, searching for a way out. But the path was gone, lost in the shroud of panic. I just want to go home. My voice cracked as my eyes filled with tears. Home. She echoed, laughter spilling from her lips. You can't go back. Not now. That's when I saw it, one of the dolls lying at my feet, a mirror reflecting something darker. It had my face, but twisted, hollowed out, with empty eyes staring directly into my soul. A sense of dread washed over me, it was like staring at a ghost of what could be. No, I stumbled back, heart racing, refusing to accept this. Panic surged, and I turned to run, pushing through the forest, desperate to escape the unraveling reality. But the laughter rose around me, echoing from all sides. You have to choose. The girl's voice fell like a thunderclap. Or you'll be lost forever. Suddenly, I felt something grab my arm, jerking me to a halt. I gasped, twisting around to confront whatever horrors awaited me in the shadows. But as I did, the darkness pulsed like it was alive. I could feel it closing in. And then it all faded to black. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer standing in the forest. Instead, I found myself in a dimly lit room, where the scent of damp earth filled the air. My heart was still racing, but now it pounded to a different rhythm. I sat up, trying to adjust to my surroundings. The walls were lined with shelves, each crammed with countless dolls, their shining eyes peering down at me. Each one looked more lifelike than the last. I rubbed my arms, the chill of the air creeping in as I realized I wasn't alone. In the far corner, the girl from the forest stood, her head cocked to the side. Welcome to my home, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. How did I get here? I stammered, eyes darting around the room, desperate for an escape route. Shadows crept along the walls, stretching with a will of their own. You were chosen, she sang, stepping forward gracefully. Now you can play. Play what? I said, panic creeping back into my voice. I want to go home. Her laughter rang out, musical yet chilling. You already know the rules. Choose. With a wave of her hand, the dolls shifted, faces forming twisted smiles as they turned toward me. Choose what? I said, my throat tightening. I don't want to choose anything. Her expression turned serious. You must. Or the dolls will choose for you. Suddenly, one of the dolls flew off the shelf, landing at my feet. It was a small girl with a faded blue dress, her porcelain face cracked but somehow still beautiful. Keep me, it said in a whisper that seemed to vibrate in the air. No. I shouted, stepping back. My body reacted before my mind, aiming for the door, but it remained sealed. Keep me, the doll repeated, a note of desperation creeping into its voice. I can help you. Help me? I asked, my breath hitching in disbelief. My fear was palpable, swirling in my chest. What could a doll possibly do? I know the way out, it said, eyes glimmering with something that resembled hope. But another doll interrupted. Don't listen to her. Choose me. I will protect you. This one had wild hair and a grim expression. It looked just as tempting as the first, but I could feel darkness rolling off its porcelain skin. Stop! I yelled, trying to drown out their voices. I don't want any of you. My heart hammered against my ribcage, a dreadful thought settling deep in my gut. The girl in the blue dress kept repeating her plea, while the grim-faced doll warbled claims of protection. They all started advancing toward me, their voices blending into a chaotic symphony. Panic engulfed me, and I stumbled back, eyes darting between the smiling dolls, searching for an answer. Suddenly, I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. I froze, dread curling around my spine. "Choose wisely," the girl whispered, leaning into my ear. Then I felt the temperature drop. Every doll's face turned somber, their desires shifting from playful to menacing. I could feel the room closing in, shadows thickening until I could hardly breathe. And then everything went silent. With my heart racing, I turned to face the girl one last time. Her eyes gleamed with anticipation, a storm brewing behind her smile. "You have until the clock strikes midnight." That's when I noticed a clock hanging on the wall. Its hands were approaching 12, ticking down the seconds with each heartbeat. I had to decide, and I had to decide quickly. The clock ticked louder, each second stretching out like a thin rope ready to snap. Panic surged through me. I had to pick one of the dolls. Which one? I breathed. What do I even get if I choose? Wisdom, protection, escape, the dolls chimed in unison. Each word dripped with false sweetness. "Enough!" I shouted, clenching my fists. The room felt like it was shrinking, the walls inching closer while the dolls loomed large. I felt trapped between two choices. The girl in the blue dress, haunted yet pleading, and the wild-haired doll whose expression remained fixed in an unsettling grimace. The girl's voice broke through my thoughts. "You must hurry. Midnight is almost here." I glanced back at the clock. Its hands ticked menacingly, closing the gap between possibility and doom. "But you all want different things," I cried. "I can't trust any of you." Suddenly, I remembered something from the forest. I was drawn to the girl, her smile always had a hint of something dark. But the other dolls were just as sinister. My gut twisted with fear. "Can I choose none?" I asked, almost hoping there was a loophole. My heart sank as all the dolls shuddered. "Choose, or we will choose for you," they shouted in harmony, a chorus of chaos. In that moment, everything felt alive in a way that made my skin crawl. The shelves creaked, and the ground beneath me shifted. The dolls surged forward, an insidious wave of porcelain and painted smiles. "No!" I screamed, holding my hands up as if its sheer will could push them back. The blue-dressed doll was suddenly in front of me again, her eyes wide and sincere. "Please, I just want to help." "I don't know if I can believe you," I shouted back. "You all seem so alike." "Not alike," the grim-faced doll hissed, its smile stretching unnaturally as it stepped closer. "Some are chosen for you. Some are chosen for themselves." I shivered at the implications. I was out of time. The clock ticked, now only seconds remained. Then chaos erupted. The dolls began to squabble, pushing one another off their shelves as they fought for my attention. The sound was like brittle wood snapping. They all screamed their claims over each other, but each proclamation grew more frantic, their true colors flashing beneath the porcelain surface. Then I felt the floor shift beneath me. There was no solid ground anymore. It was as if the very foundations of the room wavered, creating a dark void that I feared would swallow me whole. In desperation, I reached out for the girl in the blue dress, her form now wavering like a mirage. "What happens if I choose you?" "Only the best lies ahead," she whispered, but something about her tone made my heart pound harder. As I looked into her eyes, I noticed something moving behind her. That's when I saw it, a flicker of motion in the shadows that crawled up the walls, something darker than the dolls. It could be the thing that controlled them, something far more sinister than I had known. "Choose, now," the girl insisted, desperation spilling into her voice. I could feel the room spiraling around me. Time was slipping away. I had to decide. The shadows danced along the walls as I stood there, my heart pounding like a war drum. Time felt like it was twisting, the clock ticking louder, more insistent. Dread coiled around me, squeezing tighter with every second. The girls' dolls' shadows, they all pressed in, their desires palpable, overwhelming. Choose. The girl pleaded again, her eyes alight with something almost manic. You have to choose. I stared into her gaze, searching for a flicker of truth beneath the erratic panic. All the dolls shifted, whispering their deceptive promises. I felt the weight of a decision but couldn't seem to grasp any of it clearly. None. I finally shouted, desperation overcoming my fear. I won't choose any of you. My voice echoed through the dim room, stark against the murmur of playful malice that filled the air. The moment those words left my mouth, the energy of the room shifted. A low growl resonated through the air, and the dolls froze, their expressions slipping into disappointment, or was it anger? The shadows writhed, becoming more tangible, as if they were responding to my defiance. Too late. They cried out, a cacophony of voices intertwining, dark and threatening. The shadows surged toward me, filling the spaces where the dolls had previously stood. I took a step back, my heart racing as I felt the ground beneath me tremble. The shelves creaked ominously, and I realized I had upset a delicate balance. No. I didn't mean it. I cried out, spinning in place, looking for a way out. Suddenly, the girl lunged forward, her expression shifting. You must join us. You can't resist. She reached out, and I was struck with a chilling sense of inevitability. Terrified, I turned and bolted, tears streaming down my face, not daring to look back. I sprinted toward the door I thought was there, but it was gone. Panic swelled as I felt the shadows closing in, creeping down my back and curling around my limbs. I skidded to a halt, my breath hitching in my throat. The walls were transforming, glowing with a sickly light emanating from the dolls' eyes. I could feel their despair and fury beneath their porcelain surfaces. I pressed a hand to my heart, feeling it race. A thump echoed behind me. I turned just in time to see a swarm of dolls break free from the shelves, their movements jagged and predatory. They encircled me, closing in. But then, something inside me flickered a memory, a strength I hadn't acknowledged before. No. I shouted, summoning all my courage. The shadows hesitated. I felt a spark of power ignite in my chest. You don't own me. The laughter that echoed back was like glass breaking sharp and jagged. But instead of fear, I felt a rush of something else, defiance. I would rather be lost than lose my choice. I yelled, a newfound resolve anchoring me. As those words left my lips, the air changed. I took a step forward, emboldened, my true voice rising above the chaos. I reject this twisted game. The shadows recoiled, and the dolls haltingly backpedaled, as if grappling with an unseen force. I could see the girl falter, her wide eyes flickering in uncertainty. No. She growled, frustration twisting her features. But I pressed on. I won't let fear bind me. With each word, the energy shifted, and I felt echoes of resistance resonate through me, reverberating into the dark corners. My surroundings flickered. One moment, I was in that dark room, and the next, I could see sunlight spilling through a tiny window. In a blinding flash, I found myself back in the forest. Snow crunched beneath my feet, and the trees loomed tall and fierce, but somehow, they felt different now. I was breathing in the crisp air, feeling the weight of fear lift like a veil. The whispers faded, and the shadows that had gripped me receded as I stood in that solemn clearing once more. I looked behind me. The girl was gone. The anticipation that had plagued me lingered, a feeling like a candle being snuffed out, but I felt grounded. Yet, I knew that questions would remain unanswered, that darkness still lingered close, waiting just beyond my vision. What had I let go? Would the play ever truly end? As I stepped away from the clearing, the forest felt alive, breathing around me with secrets still to share. But I didn't turn back. I moved forward. I had escaped this time, but I could still feel the weight of what hovered on the edge of my perception, a shadow of unknown things to come. I knew that I could never truly run from the ethereal play of darkness and light, nor the lingering echoes of those porcelain faces that whispered truths half hidden and half ignored. And as I walked, I wondered if I would always be a part of their tale, a chapter unwritten in a night full of laughter.